Today I'm going to be watching all of Brickleberry to truly see whether or not it is one of my least favorite shows of all time. And you're probably wondering, why does this guy look so masculine? Why does he look like such a man? Well, an anonymous donor paid me quite a hefty sum to watch every single episode of Brickleberry in a cat maid outfit, and because I'm cowless, it's basically a cow maid, so do what you want with that. But yes, I'm going to hold true to that request, and I'm going to be watching every single episode, or at least all the episodes that can get past the guidelines, because I did get banned for a week watching all of Paradise PD, so we'll see how many episodes actually make it in the video, but I'm going to try my best. We're going to watch all of those, and we're going to truly find out if Brickleberry is that bad. If you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe, because I upload every single day, and although I might not be looking this attractive in every single video, you know damn well I'm going to be trying to make you laugh, so it's worth your while. Now let's finally take a look at every episode of Brickleberry. Taking a look at episode 1 of Brickleberry, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's exactly what I expected after watching all of Paradise PD and all of Farzar, the shows that came after Brickleberry. I knew exactly what I was getting myself into when, an anonymous donor paid me a lot of money to sit here and watch all of this. But the first episode, it really just helps you to get ready for exactly what you're going to be enduring while you watch this, because it's a beautiful landscape, it's shining, it's glorious. We get to look at all of Brickleberry, a beautiful national park in all of its glory, and then I just have to watch bears, raccoons, mooses, deer all have dirty, stinky sex with each other in the worst kind of ways, and the entire time I'm watching all of these animals get down and dirty with each other, I'm just thinking somebody had to willingly draw all of that. Somebody had to sit there and be like, yes, look at this bear here. I'm going to make it ride another bear in a sensual manner. Oh yes, make sure the ass cheek fluctuates up and down on it. Does that not just seem a little bit weird? Like, it's not like these creatures are humanoid in any way. It's genuinely just drawing animals having sex. And somebody at that office is just sitting there like, oh man, everybody's gonna get a big chuckle at all these animals just getting down and dirty. I don't know a lot of people in the real world who sit there and watch raccoons getting down and dirty, just humping and thrusting into each other and are just sitting there laughing, but maybe I'm just the wrong kind of person to be watching this nonsense, because I don't get it. The entire joke of that scene is the fact that Steve, one of the main characters, is showing a bunch of kids the beauty of the park and all the animals are getting down and dirty with each other, but I don't think, that tiny little joke there outweighs the fact that you had to sit there for probably a few hours drawing all of these animals just having voluptuous, vigorous sex. I'm not a fan of that. Personally, that's not what I like, and that just got me ready for my entire Brickleberry experience, which just never really gets better at all. So, Brickleberry, it has a innate desire to watch animals be killed, so not only do they want to watch dirty things happen to animals, in the sex regions, they also would just love to watch animals die in really gruesome ways, and the jokes are never even there. Steve is talking to Malloy. Malloy is the talking bear in the show, and he's just all like, oh, well, I don't really want to tell you what happened to your parents. And apparently he hit the parents with the car and then tripped out of his car and shot them both in the head, and that's the joke.
Wait, you're both still alive. I'll go call for help.
The joke is literally just animal death. Now, again, I have to reiterate this. Every single time I watch one of these shows, I don't give a shit about animals dying in a TV show if there's a genuine joke behind it, if there's actual reason for it to exist. But when you're just killing animals in animation for the sake of killing animals, it never makes sense to me. I don't understand it. I'll never get it. I'm sitting here exposing myself to the world, and all I could wonder is somebody getting off to this? Is somebody getting off to the idea of a bear getting shot in the head? Because that's genuinely what it feels like every single time I watch one of these stupid shows. So we then have Woody giving a briefing on everybody. There's a brand new girl coming to work there named Ethel. She's a mainstay in the show. Steve doesn't like her very much because he doesn't want any competition. And Woody says, we gotta make sure we get people coming to see the park. They need to come here and they need to see the park. And we need more people. And he says the word contact, and maybe I'm just too fucking stupid to understand the joke here, or I just don't think it's very funny, but Denzel, another one of the members of this crew, is all like, yeah, I got contact last week, and it cuts to a cutaway of a woman with Parkinson's, just giving him a good old-fashioned handy, just jorking his pork into oblivion, and he's like, oh yeah, baby, use your Parkinson's with it.
Easy, girl. Let the Parkinsons do the work.
Okay. Like, how is that in relation to anything? Like, the trigger word for that was contact, so that meant you can do an entire cutaway joke focusing on a old woman with Parkinson's giving a hand job. Really? That's your setup for your wondrous joke. I'll never understand it. I don't get it. So Ethel eventually does show up, and Connie's vagina starts growling, which inherently I did smirk at because it's so stupid. You know, when you have a show like this where you're just constantly doing the worst jokes ever, something is bound to make you laugh, and it just so happened to be a vagina going at the, you know, upon seeing a woman that Connie wanted to be with.
Sorry, that's my vagina growling.
I just thought that was an interesting concept, and that did get me to chuckle just a little bit. So Ethel shows up and immediately starts messing with Malloy a little bit because Malloy has to go on a diet now. So the big joke for this is, you took away something of mine, which is the bad food that Malloy wants to eat. Now I'm gonna take away something of yours. So it cuts to Malloy finding Ethel's sex toy, and he removes the testicles from it. And that's the thrilling joke. That's the thrilling comedy. Did that make you laugh? Did that, like, entire concept make you laugh? Would seeing the fucking bear do this make you laugh? Would it get you pumping your blood and laughing all your way down to the bank saying, "Hello, sir. I would like 30 funny coins to deposit into this show, please"? No, because it's not funny. It's just stupid. I really don't know how you could be writing a show like this and come up with a joke like that. Okay, so the tiny bear's gonna take balls off of a sex toy and then say, "This is how I get you back." There's just no comedy there. I don't get it. It's not my favorite thing. So then there's a big competition between Steve and Ethel doing all these different things for the park, and Ethel is clearly seeming like the better park ranger in every conceivable way. Steve does not like this, so we cut back to Malloy, and he is trying to deal with his, you know, desires to eat unhealthy food. He's walking through the forest and he manages to steal a Cheeto, and then he drops the Cheeto in mud, and then a deer poops all over it, pisses all over it, a wolf comes over, snots all over it, a bird just releases a big old pile of poop all over it, just a good old-fashioned dumpy wumpy on top of it, and then just to, you know, top it all off, Malloy is disgusted by it, but good old-fashioned Steve walks over and eats that thing right up. Yum, yum, yum.
Ah, God. Seriously?
Oh, a Cheeto!
And again, it's just shock, gross out humor for no good reason. It is just completely and utterly worthless to your time. And I know the show does have a lot of fans. I can't wait for all the people to comment, "Nah, this is so peak, man. It's so funny." I personally don't get it. They don't set up any jokes. All of their shock humor is either animals dying, a penis, or just the grossest stuff you could ever imagine. It's just so unbelievably weird. So Steve is now trying to figure out how to sabotage Ethel, so he sneaks into her cabin late at night, and apparently Connie's also watching Ethel, and she has a big old bag of toenails that she really likes to sniff, just inhaling those things. That was a little bit weird. Steve, basically roofies Connie, just putting massive amounts of alcohol in her coffee, which makes Ethel get fired, and then Steve has to redeem himself and go and get Ethel back, and they manage to save Malloy, who, by the way, Malloy's story progression ends with him getting sexually assaulted by a man in the woods, and when they find Malloy, he's like, "Do I seem okay?" as he has a man's penis inside of him. Yay. That's pretty much the entire episode. Is there really anything good to say about it? Not really. I hated this entire episode. There was nothing good. The characters don't work because they're all such awful people in their own ways, and I just don't know who to root for. The comedy is atrocious. So episode 1 of Brickleberry, so far you're not redeeming the series for me, but I'm keeping my mind open. I rank it a 1 out of 10. Taking a look at episode 2 of Brickleberry, this episode is honestly a lot better than the first one, and dear lord, I feel like I'm in like a CIA torture experiment from 1960. My lungs are like being compressed because of how tight this suit is, because I'm a big man in a small dress, but this is what the people want, this is what they want, and now I have to suffer through this nonsense. This episode was a lot better than the first one. It has 3 main plot lines, and it does kind of commit the cardinal sin of a animated show, which is being boring. You can be really bad, but you could still be entertaining. But if you're boring and I don't want to talk about you, that is evil. And I would say, like, I don't know, 50% of this episode was just outright boring. The episode actually does open very well, with Ethel showing a bunch of blind kids around a national forest, which just sounds great. And one of the kids is like wandering into a pond, and she's like, stay with the group, like guides him back, and then he just immediately walks back and gets eaten by an alligator.
Stay with the group. Come on.
Which I thought was inherently really funny. I enjoyed that. And then it just gets boring after that and kind of weird, because then all the kids almost get kidnapped by a clown. That was a whatever joke. Then we cut to Denzel, who is after old women. That's just what he does. That's apparently his gimmick in the show. He really just wants those wrinkly sacks like, oh, hello, Sonny. Oh, I haven't opened up my legs in about 33 years, but ooh, come smell it. Ooh, does it smell like rotten eggs? Oh, get in there, Denzel. You know, he's just really into those wrinkly bags of bones that could decay and turn into dust at any second, which is a interesting fetish nonetheless. I guarantee at least one person watching this video probably wants to shag it with an old woman, and to you I say, kinda weird, but pop off, King, pop off. So Steve then ends up having sex with a prostitute, and this leads to him getting syphilis AIDS, so he thinks he's going to die, but he's not actually dying, so it doesn't matter. So he tries to become a better person for the majority of the episode. At the same time, we actually get to dive deep into what is going on with Denzel. He tries to sleep with this old woman, and I have to watch him feel up this wrinkly, old, saggy titty. Yay! There's nothing better than that. He's feeling that up, and then the old woman's mother walks in, and even older woman, so Denzel realizes that he really needs that extremely bad, and it's just weird, man. And at the other time, we have another plot going on with Malloy where he's getting bullied by raccoons for being a house bear, so his response is to try to become a park ranger, and that ultimately leads to nothing interesting. It's him arguing with Woody for the majority of the episode, and then he tricks Woody into hiring a gay guy, and then the gay guy doesn't understand his commands. Like, Woody asks, like, what will you do for this company? He's like, I'll do anything for this company. You could literally shove your hand up my ass and use me like a puppet.
I'm willing to get down on my hands and knees and do whatever it takes to satisfy you.
See, Malloy, that's what you call commitment.
And then he just gets naked and Woody is scared, and that's the entire joke of it all. So that was okay. We get more stuff with Steve trying to be a good person. He's running around doing a bunch of good deeds, and I still don't understand their needless desire to just kill animals without any joke set up. Like, I get it, Steve is trying to help. There's this cat stuck in a tree, the cat falls off, and there's just a wood chipper there, and the cat gets ripped to shreds, and blood goes all over the child that wanted the cat back. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like boggling my mind. It's boggling everything I thought I knew. I feel like Titan in the movie Megamind when he learned that Space Dad and his stepmom wasn't even real. You lied to her. You know, all of it was fake. I feel like him in the Megamind movie because I don't understand why any of this would happen, why any of this needed to happen. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, genuinely. Like, oh, like, man, we really need something to spice up this 30-second clip. Let's just have a cat die needlessly. Ah, it's just so odd. So we have Denzel calling the old woman's mother, the older woman, and he's like, what are you wearing right now? And she says a diaper, and he really likes that, and that's the joke, because he likes it stinky and dirty up in there, all up in that cooch, nice little brown thrown into there, which again is inherently very weird. And then the only other part of the episode that I really liked is Connie taking advantage of Steve, and then Steve, he walks over and he's gonna give her a Brazilian, like, thing where he's gonna wax her real good. He takes one look at her lips, at her tuna, at her cat, and he realizes that there must be no God, which I thought was a little bit funny, I can't lie.
I'm ready.
You're right! There is no God!
I did enjoy that, so he starts panicking a lot, and then they eventually just tell him that he's not dying, and that's pretty much the entire end of his plotline. And the Denzel plotline ends with the old women fighting, which I thought it was going to get good. I thought they were going to animate like a sick-ass old woman battle, but Denzel's like, no, girls, let's not do that. And he does them both in bed, and then they both die, and that's it. And then Malloy kills the raccoons, and that's the episode. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. If I was to rate it 1 through 10, I would probably give it a 3 out of 10. It was a lot better than the first one, but it's still, the majority of it is boring and just uninteresting. Taking a look at episode 3, this episode revolves around some good old-fashioned ball squirting. Yes, you heard me right, ball squirting. Balls being taken away from a young being and being squirted all over plants to help them grow. Yes, what is more thrilling than that? The episode opens up with everybody being sick of hippies and pot, so they try to figure out a way to get rid of it by smoking, and then they are just all out of ideas, and then for some reason Malloy is just sitting there humping a phone saying he's having phone sex.
Doing phone sex. What's it look like, you crazy codependent sucker?
And then he starts doing the dirty nasty with a sandwich. I just don't know what to expect from this show anymore. I really don't. Like, that was probably the best part of the entire episode, was the bear humping a phone and saying, "What, you never heard of phone sex?" Oh my goodness. It's so funny. So then we have Steve and Denzel going outside, and they end up like taking over the DEA because the DEA dies, so they're playing undercover cops, and they meet a villain named Nikolai, and Steve pretends that he is Mario from the Mario Brothers. I have a brother named Luigi, and I fight a fire-breathing turtle, you know, just stuff like that. It's all pretty uninteresting, and Malloy, he gets neutered and his balls get taken away, and because Steve and Denzel are undercover, they get tasked with making this marijuana field grow better, so he steals Malloy's testicles and starts spraying the ball juice all over the plants, and that makes them grow significantly more, which is great. But at the same time, Steve starts liking the fact that he's in a cartel. He asks for a white tiger filled with crunch berries to eat out of. Ain't that something? So eventually the cartel goes after Woody because Steve says that Woody disappoints him and is rude to him. So he grabs Woody, and then we actually get a pretty decent shootout at the end here where Malloy's balls fall in the sewer, so he's ballless for the rest of his life, and Denzel shows up and guns down the majority of the cartel while they run away. And I actually like their take on like one of those standoffs where somebody is holding another person gun to their head and you're supposed to shoot the one guy that's holding, and Steve just shoots Woody 4 times in the chest. I thought that was pretty funny.
Like throat.
I don't think so.
Oh!
Oops. Sorry.
But that's pretty much it. Woody ends up surviving and the cartel boss dies, and that's pretty much the entire episode. There was an entire side plot that was just completely and utterly boring, involving Ethel and Connie and being psychic. That was just pointless to talk about, genuinely just a waste of time, so I'm not even gonna bother. This episode was definitely just okay. It's not the worst thing that I've ever seen. It's just, you know, the good old-fashioned ball squirting and then, you know, a shootout. That's really all it had. If I was to rate this one 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 3 out of 10. That's all I could really say about it. Now, I know you might not be trusting my opinion as much as usual right now, and it's because I look like such a man. If you were to show Andrew Tate this video right now, he would be like, "Alpha, alpha, alpha." You know, that's exactly what he would be doing, but call me crazy. But episode 4 of Brickleberry is actually really good. Now, I know it's hard to believe, but this was just a really decent concept, executed well. The characters were at their best. I think the worst part of the episode was a character walking up to Connie, asking if she could pick a lock, and she says, "Oh yeah, I could pick a lock really good."
Me.
And then she starts like sensually getting deep into that lock with her tongue, and they show every second of it. Was not really about that, but everything else was honestly a lot of fun. So the main like portions of the episode is Steve. He's trying to get some more visitors to Brickleberry because Yellowstone is so popular. So he finds a rabbit or a squirrel, and the way he gets the squirrel, I don't really like. The squirrel like crawls up a woman's vag, and then he like gets under her dress and starts like digging in there. Didn't like that one bit. But then the next scene is actually pretty funny because he hears a woman go, "Oh, you're so cute! Oh my goodness!" And so he just hits the woman with the car off of the cliff and grabs the rabbit that she was looking at.
Animal ever. Aw, look at you.
Oh my god!
And he realizes that what is the best thing he could possibly do to get the cutest thing of all time? It's to combine a rabbit and a squirrel. And normally I wouldn't necessarily like this, but the way they executed it was actually pretty good. With Steve making them have a candlelight dinner, he dresses the squirrel up in a scampy little whore outfit, and then he just feeds a bunch of pills to the bunny, and they just start jorking each other, just going, just getting down and dirty, and that creates a squabbit, this little pink rabbit thing, which is, you know, he's cool. He's a little squabbit, and Malloy gets very jealous of this creature and starts trying to kill it and ends up killing it, but that just splits it in half, and then it multiplies into 2, and I was shocked by this. I was like, oh my god, there's 2 now. What's gonna happen? And then they just immediately started having sex. And I was like, what? Why are they doing that? See, this is where shock humor can actually pay off if it's executed well and it's genuinely so surprising, but still relates to something. It's not just, here, look! Oh, look, it's a schlong! It's a good old-fashioned penis! No, that actually related to the episode and kept the plot going, and wasn't just for the sake of showing me 2 animals getting down and jiggy with each other. So they then start producing rapidly, having lots of babies over and over and over again, just plopping them out left and right, and this eventually leads to Woody having a nightmare in which he imagines JFK coming up to him like, I do declare, there are so many squabbits here, I say, Woody, they're gonna eat your nutsack, which causes Woody to panic and just want to genocide all of the squabbits, and the squabbits, they just keep trying to kill people. At the same time, Malloy is living out in the forest. That's the side plot for the episode. And there was one more thing that I didn't really like because, again, it's just so pointless. You know that awesome video that's just so amazing? It can make you lactate, it can make you get out of your seat and clap. It's that video where the panda has his baby panda and the panda sneezes and shocks the parent. Well, in this video that they decided to animate, the panda sneezes and then the adult panda rips it in half. Now, why did that happen? How did that relate to the episode? It didn't. It didn't at all. Okay, so that's pretty much all that matters for the Malloy plotline. He eventually does come back. But so they start trying to kill all the squabbits, and then PETA shows up, and I did like this fourth wall joke, or just breaking the fourth wall, a little bit of a meta joke, where they're like, oh my god, it's PETA! PETA's here! But it's PETA spelled with an I, and they look at the camera, because, you know, they don't want to refer to the actual company.
PETA? No, PETA with an I. It's a completely different organization.
I thought that was funny. I like that. I love making fun of PETA. Who doesn't want to make fun of PETA? PETA kills animals needlessly. They're not a very good company. They're actually awful people. But either way, that's not what we're focusing on. So eventually, the squabbits, they get a taste for blood, and they start killing everybody. So Woody has to get Pamela Anderson to be sacrificed to all the squabbits, because if they eat Pamela Anderson because she, I don't know, gets around a lot, she's gonna be diseased, so all the squabbits die when they eat Pamela Anderson, and that's pretty much the episode. I actually thought it was pretty decent. If I was to rate it 1 through 10, I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. There were actually some jokes that got me to laugh here. Of course, there were some things that I didn't like, but 7 out of 10 is probably the best it's gonna get. If it gets any higher, hot dog, I'll be shocked. Taking a look at episode 5, we're kind of just back to the status quo. There's not a whole lot to latch onto here. It's mainly focused on Connie, and she's all like, oh, my parents tried to homo-eradicate me. They tried to get rid of the gayness. But everybody needs to be tolerant. And how does she express this? Well, Ethel is trying to be nice to her, walks up to her, and is like, oh, Connie, it'll be okay. So Connie forces her big meaty lips, her big bison-like lips, her big Lizzo-sized lips on her, kisses her, and Ethel reacts negatively to this. I mean, as anyone would when they're kissed unconsensually, yet Connie's all like, and cries and moans about it. So I don't really like her character, and I couldn't really resonate with her in this episode because she did that. But she eventually runs off to this military base, and she finds a gay bomb, and we get to see something so exquisite, so divine, that it genuinely changed my life. An animated version of Hitler who was extremely gay and was tonguing one of his generals because they unleashed a gay bomb on him. So Connie wants to do the same thing. She gay bombs the entire park, so everybody in a certain mile radius is now a homosexual. And it's okay, I guess. I don't know. Connie walks outside, and the reverend who has been mean to Connie for being a homosexual is now being mean to her, well, he's just taking it in the ass. He's just like, "Oh, Connie, I didn't understand how good it was to be gay." As you know, he's getting it deep inside of him. So yeah, that's pretty thrilling and very comedic if you're super into that. Personally, don't really care for it. Didn't think it was that funny. So Ethel, now because she's gay, she really wants Connie, and she's making out with the Bill Wildebeest. That's what I'm gonna call Connie. And Connie realizes that she is now straight because the gay bomb made her straight. It had the opposite effect, and this causes Connie's parents to return to the series. And this actually made me upset. This pissed me off because this is just genuinely somebody on the writer's staff, somebody on the animator staff. They are a sociopath, a psychopath, and they were hurting animals growing up. They would look at a cat and bash its skull in with a rock, and they would laugh about it because this scene is so awful. So you remember how I said that Connie's parents replaced her with a dog when they found out that she was gay? Well, when it turns out she's not gay anymore and she tells her parents that, we literally get a scene of the dad of the dog grabbing the dog and just choking it and strangling it to death, just slowly but surely as it takes its last breath. And it's not even like there's a joke about it. There's not even a like comedic portion of it. It goes on for so long. It's just 10 seconds of the dude holding the dog and just be like, "Oh, quiet now, quiet, quiet, quiet." What is funny about that?
Go to sleep, Connie. Go to sleep.
Well, I genuinely don't get it. I would love for somebody to tell me. If somebody down in the comments can explain to me why it's funny to watch a dog get strangled for 10 seconds, then I'm all ears. And if you could genuinely advocate for that, then I don't know. It just feels like anybody who would laugh at something like that just has no comedic effect is just kind of a little bit of a sociopath. That was just really weird. Really, really weird. And the episode also doesn't have a very good conflict resolution where Connie and Malloy, they're panicking because Woody is acting like a freak and Ethel's acting like a freak, and Connie wants to save Ethel from being gay. They go to the military base, and it turns out that the gayness just ends after 24 hours. So that wasn't very interesting to me. The best parts of the episode were Woody and Denzel and Steve all being extremely gay, specifically for Denzel, so they kept trying to one-up each other with gifts. That was probably the most entertaining part of the episode, but everything else was just it's just whatever. Horrible conflict resolution. I had to watch a dog die a horrible death. Even if it's animation, it doesn't make it any better, especially when it's not made to be funny at all. It's just, "Oh, you die, dog." And then I don't know, a lot of Connie just being an unconsensual bewilderbeast, so I wasn't really into that. If I was to rate this episode 1 through 10, I would give it a 1 out of 10. This was really bad. Taking a look at episode 6 of Brickleberry, it just has such a thrilling opening that genuinely touched my heart, that genuinely got me going. Where Connie's just like, "Oh yeah, let me stare into that strawberry shortcake." Oh, as she's staring into the bottomless pit, the bottomless abyss that is Ethel's vagina. Yep, ain't that nice? Malloy then cut down a tree that has some really rare bald eagles, and Ethel's very upset, so Malloy cuts down the tree that they're all standing on, and Ethel and Connie fall out of the tree that they're in, and Ethel falls onto Connie's face, and Connie goes,
Oh, more like strawberry shitcake. Oh. Whoa, smells more like strawberry shitcake.
Ain't that just a great opening that touched your heart in every single way, that changed the entire way you view the world and the way you view animation as a whole? Perhaps this is now your favorite scene in all of television, because I know damn well it's mine. Ha ha ha. So it turns out that it's Woody's birthday, and everybody wants to throw him a big birthday bash, but his birthday overtakes Ethel's care for the eggs that she found of the last remaining eagles there. So she's very focused on that, and they keep bashing heads the entire episode. Well, Connie finds a lesbian woman who just touches her heart because she's like,
"Oh my god, another big woman who's also a homosexual? I have to be with that thing. I have to rub our beautiful cats together and make them purr, baby."
So she wants it really bad, so she gets the help from Denzel to do that, and ends up saying the wrong thing, like, "I'm gonna put my finger inside of your ass," so the woman doesn't really like that. And then all of a sudden the entire world starts flooding because of fireworks, so they all get washed down to this island. And You know, you'd think that they would like do something really clever here, but it's mainly the same joke over and over where Steve, he's the leader because Woody got exiled by Ethel because Ethel didn't save him. So Steve is the leader, and they just keep doing the same joke over and over again where people will take one bite of an apple and then throw it away. And then Steve's like, guys, we should really be saving some of our food. And then they all bite the apple just once and throw it away. And that's the entire joke. It's just, I don't know, it feels lazy to me. I don't really care for it. Woody, he's on the other side of the island. He starts going insane, and then just some bad things happen because Connie eventually does get with the big woman. So you have these two really big women just like, oh yeah, keep talking to me dirty. Oh yes, use your giant colossal lips on my face. Oh yes. They get down and dirty with each other, and then Denzel, because he's helping Connie with everything that Connie wants to say to her, Denzel starts having a dirty, wet dream about Judge Judy, getting down and dirty with Judge Judy of all people, you know, just using up that judge, just having her vindicate him, just doing all that good stuff. And then he wakes up from his dream and he is getting unconsensually assaulted by the big woman that Connie was interested in. Like, it's basically like the equivalent of a hippo holding you down. Just, yeah, so Denzel got assaulted, and that's pretty much it for that. And then they all get a boat and they go home at the end after eating the boat salesman or the boat fucking captain. That's pretty much the entire episode. I don't really care. It's awful. It's awful. The like highlight of the episode is Denzel being all like, oh, Judge Judy, get on this, and then randomly riding her, and that's not even that good. It's just awful. It's not entertaining. It's just flat out weird. It all sucks. It's all boring. If I was to rate this episode 1 through 10, I would give it a solid 1 out of 10. Taking a look at episode 7 of Brickleberry, you know, the thing about this is that I honestly envy the people who could laugh at this stuff. I wish that I could laugh at a man regrowing his legs and the first thing he does is go back to his house, beat his wife, and then passionately make love to her, you know? I wish I could laugh at things like that, but I just don't. I wish I could laugh at the character Denzel making love to a 112-year-old woman going to her funeral and saying that she was a little bit racist, but boy, did she like some chocolate in the bedroom. I wish I could laugh at stuff like this. I'm just not really a fan. There's a whole lot going on in this episode, and none of it was very interesting. It's just doing more of the cardinal sin of being boring. I guess that's why this show is probably so hard to talk about. It's all so goddamn boring, or just flat out weird. The main story going on is with Woody and apparently the lake at Brickleberry. If you throw people in it, it'll heal all wounds. That's how I got to that, you know, statement about the man regrowing his limbs and going to beat his wife. Yep, because that's what happens, and Woody realizes he can make a lot of money for this, so he just basically becomes a priest, just going like, I have the power, the high power to make you heal. Oh, come here, boy. What do you got wrong with you? Oh, you got just a little bit of lactation going on. Well, climb inside of that lake, boy, and let it heal you. And he does that for like 11 minutes before it stops working, and then he struggles and drowns a man. So that's cool, I guess. He just drowns a guy to death.
Heal, you hair-lipped son of a bitch! Healer!
And then it turns out that it was all medical waste the whole time, so they pour medical waste, and they can't recreate the concoction, so everybody in the lake just dies. At the same time, the other plot we got going on was with Denzel and Ethel. They take Malloy up to go snowboarding and end up falling through this like little hole in the mountain, and Denzel, because he just has an insatiable desire to be with anything that is just puffing dust, and if it goes to the bathroom, has to take a piss, it's puffing dust out. That's what he's attracted to, just bags of bones. He sees a woman frozen in ice and wants to unfreeze her so he can do the nasty with her, and she just starts taking advantage of him in horrible ways. Her name is Grog, and she's like, ooh, oh, you look at you better for chocolate, man. Oh, I'm gonna be using you up every day. Except she doesn't talk as much as that, but she just starts following him around, not letting him leave. And there's so many more creative ways that they could have solved this problem, but all he does is push her into a freezer and then freezes her there. Like, that's the big conclusion to her following him around the entire episode and saying, you no leave, Greg. Greg will use you up, boy. Like it's just boring. It's just boring. That's pretty much the entire episode. Woody gets crucified at one point, but it's just all resolved right away because he just immediately gets out of his crucifixion and goes and finds a medical waste truck and just solves the problem. Everybody dies, and then the episode just continues on. It's just a waste of time. It's a major waste of time. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give it a 1 out of 10. I'm just throwing 1 out of 10s all the time. I don't usually give these out, but this is just, it's a cardinal sin for an animated show to be boring. For anything in media to be boring, that is the worst thing that it could ever possibly be, and this is what it is 90% of the time. Now taking a look at episode 8, this one has something that I just could not live without. The image of a ball sack getting attacked by bedbugs. A nice zoom in on that just so that I could get nice and deep and fully understand what's happening, because they just had to zoom in on this man's ball sack to emphasize that this guy was getting attacked by bedbugs, other than maybe making him stand up and start shaking or something. You know, it just has to be that brilliant. We have to show the ball sack. Guys, okay, so there's clearly only one thing that we could do when making this episode. You know, we have to zoom in on the balls, or else they clearly won't understand that this guy is being attacked by bedbugs. Even though we literally went through the effort of animating bedbugs crawling up his leg, we still have to show the testicles, the good old basangas, the balls. Sorry, I'm just a little heated by that because it was so unbelievably unnecessary. And personally, I'm not the type of guy that wants to stare at another man's ball sack. It's just not, it's not my thing. It's not what I want to do with my life. So that was a little bit annoying, but overall this episode was fine, I guess. It was just kind of weird, and the pacing was off, and some things just didn't even matter. The beginning of it, I guess you could call it a cold open, is literally Malloy getting in a mech suit and destroying Steve's car and Steve in it, which I thought was kind of funny, and it kind of sets up that Woody wants him to get an actual job and cuts him off from having money, but that's pretty much it, which leads to Malloy becoming a lawyer, and then there's a big carnival going on. And Connie, she sees a bunch of freaks, a bunch of menaces to society, like, oh my god, that person, look at them, they're so ugly. And so she has to rush over and she frees all the carnival freaks. And you would think that would play like a more pivotal role in the episode, but it really doesn't. They party at Connie's house for like less than half of the episode, and then the carnival guy says they have jury summons, and then they leave until literally the final sequence of the episode. I thought it was going to play such a more pivotal role, but it was ultimately pointless, so I didn't get that. At the same time, there's this carnival going on, and Steve, he goes on this roller coaster called the Paralyzer, and he ends up fucking paralyzed. Whoop-de-doo! And so he starts suing Woody for paralyzing him, and that's pretty much it. There's a horrible joke about like a bag that Steve poops into, and he calls it yogurt, and he says he eats it and then proceeds to poop even more in the bag. So that was really cool. That was great. Eventually Woody just doesn't believe that he's paralyzed, so he shoves him off a cliff, which unparalyzes him. And then in court, Woody confesses that he's a horrible person, but because of those bed bugs and that zooming in on the balls, I'm obviously not going to show you his good old-fashioned testes, those wrinkly little dollops between his legs. He gets up and it's revealed that he's not paralyzed, so Woody ends up not having to pay him, and that's pretty much the entire episode. Yeah, that's pretty much it. How did the freaks tie into the story? Well, one of the freaks, he was itching himself, and that's where the bed bugs came out that made him itchy. That's their entire purpose. That was the entire point. And it just makes you wonder, like, why was this in the episode? Why was this added? Because they could have done so much more with that. Like, you're in an animated universe. You could do so much, and all you did was make the freaks party for a little bit, leave for the entire episode, and then come back and have the one who's a little bit hairy itch himself to forward the plot. It's just lazy, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a show writer. I'm not an animator. I don't really care. It's just, I don't know. I feel like they could have done so much more with this one. So if I was to rate it 1 through 10, I'd probably give it a solid 3 out of 10. It's not awful, like 1 out of 10 type stuff, but it was still pretty bad. Now taking a look at episode 9, as I sit here looking like the most attractive maid that's ever been born into the world, I just have to wonder, what is it all for? This episode also was not good. I hope the money was well spent to watch a big man sit here and complain for 2 fucking hours about this ass show. God, I would love to get in a room with the creators of the show and just, like, try and get into their mind to understand what was going on when they were making this, because I really don't get it. The episode starts off with Woody just being extremely sexist because there's a female governor. He's just hating on her. He says, "Oh, come on, girl, show me your boobs." And then Steve does it. Steve just shows his big, voluptuous man boobs, and Woody loves those. He's all for it. And because he was being so sexist, the governor puts a highway on top of Brickleberry. So that's great. And then, you know what I get the honor of, because I just get to keep watching the show, I get to see heinous things that don't make any sense. Woody, he's discussing why he hates women so much, and it cuts back to his childhood, a optional time to learn about characterization, perhaps to make me resonate with this character, perhaps to make me find him a little bit funnier. That's not what happens. No, no, no. We learn about his birthday, in which his mother didn't want him to turn out gay, so she hired a hooker for him, and she queefs all over his birthday candles to blow him out.
Birthday. Now, screw this hooker so you don't turn into a queer.
Isn't that a thrilling sentence, huh? Isn't that something you'd want to see every single day? Happy birthday to you, as it just flutters out of the vag. Ah, man, that's just not that great. So they deal with more highway shenanigans for a very long time, and then eventually Ethel is going to run for governor and Woody is going to run for governor to try to counteract each other, because they get rid of the original governor because Denzel goes and sleeps with her, which is also just really bad jokes, because the entire time Denzel's just being like, "Oh, she's not shriveled though. She's not dirty. She's not a bag of bones. How am I supposed to have sex with this young, healthy woman?" Ah, it's such a challenge for him, and that joke goes on for a very long time. And then eventually Woody says that he can't be seen with Malloy anymore, so Malloy makes the statement, "Even Lincoln sucked off a kangaroo," which is why Malloy should be allowed to be in his campaign. I don't know. It's all over the place. The writing's all over the place. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. It's stupid. So they're running for a while, and then Malloy forms this militia that is going to kill whoever becomes the governor. And this is actually where the episode got really good. It was actually funny for like at least a minute and a half, I swear. Like 1 minute and 30 seconds out of 22 minutes, I was knee slapping. I was having a dandy old time, because they don't want to die. They decide they're going to do anti-campaigns of why they shouldn't be elected, and they start doing the most heinous stuff you could ever imagine. Like, Ethel literally does blackface.
Violence isn't a problem. It's a solution. The countdown ladies sang this song, doo-dah.
And it made me chuckle, because that's the kind of shock humor that you expect. Shock humor that relates to the episode, that isn't just, "Here's a ball sack, look at it in its glory, oh man, are you admiring the balls?" It related to the episode, and I thought it was good, and Woody still gets elected because he had to vote for himself, because he still couldn't let a woman win. And eventually they have this big shootout, and it turns out that Woody does stay governor. The militia disbands, and Woody just gives governor right back to the lady who had it before, returning the show to the status quo. And that is the entire episode. Yeah, this episode was pretty bad for a very long time, until they started doing all those anti-campaign jokes, anti-why I shouldn't be governor. Then they started to be a little bit more clever, but everything else was just pretty slot-filled, pretty all over the place. Not really a fan of it, but I will give this one a 4 out of 10. I think it's a lot better than what I've seen. Now, taking a look at episode 10 of Brickleberry, it truly feels like every single time they have a really good plotline, a really good idea, it's like they just throw a biscuit onto the table and they're like, "We need to butter that! We need to butter that with animals dying and animals having sex, and why not? Let's get even dirtier with it. Let's have a pulsating anus! Yes!" It's so weird, dude. It's so weird that somebody has to sit there and draw that. Like, it's one thing if you're watching a nature documentary, I don't know, Snoop Dogg's narrating, and he's like, "Oh man, those lizards are getting it on. Man, I'm gonna smoke some weed. Well, those lizards have sex." But they're actually just like subconsciously choosing that. It's not like Snoop Dogg is sitting there like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna draw a pulsating anus of a moose." Isn't that great? Like, it's just so weird. The episode opens with baby Malloy, and we get a deeper look into how Steve killed Malloy's parents, and that's the main, like, focal point of the episode. It's focusing on Steve's guilt and Malloy getting abducted by animals out in the forest that want to help him inflict his revenge. But you know, like, for every good thing they do, like, that's a great concept. Like, I would love to explore that if they did it a little bit more serious, but they do things like,
Oh, Malloy, how you want to see how we live as animals? Well, we have doctors, the best you could buy.
and it's a duck going around, like, saying who needs a lick from a dog or a wolf to get better, and there's this raccoon who's all like, oh, my penis, it really hurts, oh. So he gets a licking, and I thought that was it. I was like, okay, I'm glad they didn't go that deep into it. And then the raccoon utters the words, oh, I think my balls need it too.
I just remembered. I also sprained my balls.
And then he pulls the dog in, and the dog just starts going to town on his nuts. And you just have to wonder, what's this all for? Why do they have to do that? Like, somebody has to willingly sit there and draw that, animate that, and stare at it and go, oh wow, that's amazing, that's incredible, that's something that you definitely would want to see and want to enjoy. It's not my personal favorite thing, but go you. So then Malloy, he's talking to the head moose, the leader of these animals, and he's all like, don't you want to kill your parents? Don't you want to avenge your parents? Don't you want to save them? Don't you want retribution? Now stare into my gaping anal gland. As though Malloy has to smell the moose's gland, which is one of the highest honors, and it's drawn with such immaculate detail that it almost made me sick. Sick to think about somebody sitting there putting the time and effort into that drawing. It's just a unbelievably sad thing to think about. I hate it so much. So Malloy eventually is willing to do it until Steve eventually confesses that he was the one who killed Malloy's parents, and then all of a sudden good old Malloy's like, I can't possibly kill him, I can't do it, it was an accident, oh gosh. So the moose is about to kill everybody, but then Steve trips and kills every single animal with one bullet. Kills them all, they're all dead, and that's pretty much the entire episode. There were a couple things that I left out of that little discussion there. There were some good jokes about, like, hitting Connie, like if somebody was about to say or reveal something, they would just like bash a chair over Connie's head and just hit her really hard, which was kind of funny. That was the main highlight. But the majority of the time, it's just drawing really weird things that are super off-putting for me that I just can't get by. Like, they had a really interesting concept and they'd rather just draw a giant ass, you know? A giant, high, detailed ass. It's just weird. And then they also make jokes like, somebody will, like, Connie will walk up and be like, oh my gosh, are you Khloe Kardashian? You look even better in real life. And she's, like, talking to the moose, for example, and that's really low-hanging comedy. Like, that's the equivalent of if your favorite YouTuber kept making fun of Lizzo and Amy Schumer in every single video. Like, it's low-hanging fruit. It doesn't take a lot of effort to set up, and it's not ultimately that great, you know, but maybe you'll get a bit of a chuckle at it, especially if it's your favorite YouTuber. Either way, this episode was pretty sloppy, didn't like it. A great concept just ruined by really odd desires by the creators that I swear at this point they're into some freaky freak stuff. So if I was to rate this episode 1 through 10, I would probably give it a solid 3. Sounds about right. Now taking a look at episode 11, I think the beginning of the episode is actually pretty gosh dang fun. It's Malloy acting out, chasing people around with a chainsaw, so Woody's all like, Malloy, you can't be doing this, no! So it then cuts to Malloy with just a wooden paddle just spanking his big ass.
Murder Steve or else.
This will teach you to ruin my fun.
Which I thought was a little bit funny. Everything after that was just kind of whatever. They decide to try to discipline Malloy in some odd ways, like getting Denzel's old gang, who is just a bunch of washed up criminals, to come and see him, and they end up just wanting to party it up with Malone, wanting to do some crimes, and they just get arrested. And so Denzel, the entire episode, he has also been getting in this horse costume for a Lord of the Rings, like, fandom convention, and every time he gets in that costume, there's a deer that, you know, sexually assaults him. It's the thing that everybody worries it's in life, the unconsensual deer that is going to come after you and try to use you up. That is what Denzel is, you know, dealing with. and I didn't like it at all because I've seen so many animals in these hours upon hours that I've been watching the show, just, you know, just humping, so I didn't really care for it. But then when Denzel gets arrested and he's in prison, the deer comes to visit him and is just putting its, like, hoof on the glass, and I thought that was kind of funny. I liked that follow-up. Everything else with the episode was just kind of whatever. There was only really one more part of it that I liked. It's when they meet the warden of the prison. His name is Warden Smalls, and he's just a small little guy, just sitting right there looking so fly, and somebody laughs because his name is Warden Smalls and he's tiny, and he just goes, "Electric chair! Put them in that electric chair!" And they go and die, which I thought was cool.
Gentlemen, I'm Warden Smalls. Electric chair.
Malloy ends up becoming, the head of the prison, basically, the head of the Latin Kings, and likes to shank people. That's his entire joke for a very long time. The episode eventually ends when, one of the actors in The Lord of the Rings invades this wedding that Denzel was being thrust into because he had to marry Meathammer in a gay, unconsensual relationship, but they're saved at the last minute by the Lord of the Rings actor, and that's pretty much the episode. A lot of stuff that I could just glance over because, again, you know, I'm 3 hours into this nonsense of watching episodes. And again, there is just a lot that I could glance over here that I didn't really have to talk about, because there's plenty of episodes that aren't going to make it into this video because I'm playing it a little bit safe because of, you know, what happened to Paradise PD with that getting me banned for a week. So, you know, I'm currently 8 hours into this nonsense, and it's not really getting any better. I'm almost to the end of season 2, and a lot of this stuff is just flat out boring. Like, the jokes aren't good, so that doesn't even out when the episodes slow down. It just feels like you're building to nothing, and that's what this episode is doing. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 4 out of 10. Taking a look at episode 12 of Brickleberry, you may notice that I'm looking a bit more fashionable. I didn't know how to put a dress together because I'm just not like that. So I got a little bit of help, and now I'm looking a bit more snazzy, a bit more delectable, you could say. And this episode appears to be the season finale of season 2. I think it is. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of all these episodes because I didn't write the titles of them down. I'm just going through it as I have them on my computer. And it's called Apocalypse, and I thought it was going to be one of those episodes that they had in Paradise PD where they try to get those gooners and those guys who are sitting there like, my hands are so sweaty, oh god, my Discord kittens, they're waiting for me, but I gotta see what happens in the next season of Brickleberry, oh god, I can't contain myself, because they were building it up like it was gonna be this really big thing that would bleed into season 3, but it didn't really do that, even in the slightest. The episode opens with a volcano going off and some animal deaths, you know, just typical Brickleberry fashion, gotta have a lot of animals dying, and then all of a sudden Connie says that she is pregnant, okay? And nobody wanted to do it with her, so she must clearly have the antichrist inside of her. We get to watch her water break, which is just a mass amount of splooge going everywhere.
I think Mark.
So that was great. The baby pops out. Denzel doesn't trust it. He thinks it's evil. He thinks it's the Antichrist incarnate, and it apparently is. And we just get to watch a bunch of like trial and error stuff of trying to prove that it's the Antichrist. And eventually, we get to the only scene that I actually liked in the episode, where Connie describes how she got pregnant in the first place. And he was like, oh, well, it was a pretty normal, you know, insemination process. And she's literally like on a podium surrounded by a star, a Satanistic star. And literal Satan walks out and he takes one look at Connie and he's like, are you guys serious? I guess I'm afraid.
Oh, hell no. You guys are messing with me, right?
Because he takes one look at Connie and thinks she's just, you know, the most vulgar creature he's ever laid his eyes upon. But Connie does get pregnated, so she has the baby, and the baby just keeps wreaking a little bit of chaos, and eventually everybody wants to kill the baby. We get this big climax on top of a mountain as they throw the baby into the volcano, which unleashes what I thought was going to be the big finale leaking into season 3. How are they going to solve this? There's demons everywhere, Satan everywhere, lava everywhere, everything's on fire. It's just one big thing, and then Connie's all like, oh, Satan Jr., get down here, get rid of all of this mess immediately. And that's what he does. It's just over, just like that. It's done. That's the entire episode. Not leading into anything. They were building it up like it was going to be pretty important, but it just wasn't. So, yeah, overall, pretty mediocre. Not the worst I've ever seen. It's probably the better Brickleberry episode. I would honestly give it a 5 out of 10, which isn't saying a whole lot, but it was okay. Going over to episode 13, we have an episode that focuses on the man, the myth, the legend, Obama. And, you know, this episode does him a little bit dirty. They kind of hype him up for a very long time for when he finally does show up, and it's really weird when he shows up. It's just like, Michelle, listen, I know I should be thinking about foreign policy right now, but listen, Michelle, I could be tapping your luscious booty, but there's nothing I want more, let me tell you, girl, than a lesbian ginger who is really overweight. I need it really bad. I need her flabby ass cheeks so unbelievably bad. That is genuinely what Obama does in this episode, and it's honestly shocking in some kind of way. The episode opens with one of the most weird scenes I've ever seen, with a award show at Woody's school when he's a child, and they're giving out the most handicapped award first, and I'll just let that scene play for ya.
Handicapped.
Yeah, it's not really something you would ever expect. Like, that was a South Park type joke, which is why I kind of thought it was funny, because Jimmy and Timmy are my favorite characters in that show. That was wild. And then we learned that Obama really wants Connie, and that's kind of a mainstay for the episode, and we learned that Obama is coming into town to give Woody this medal for something he did. I don't know, I wasn't paying that much attention. But I really like this interaction between these two hicks, who would obviously be very against, somebody like Obama, but one of them actually voted for Obama, and his friend just beats him with a stick, and he's like, how dare you vote for Obama? Oh my god, you goddamn liberal, what do you know about anything? And then he stands up, and this is supposed to be like the biggest moron in the show, but he actually gives some like good insight with some facts and some evidence that just leaves his little friend just mouth agape like, and then, you know, they kind of ruined it with the dude just grabbing and fondling his balls. But I like that scene a lot. I thought that was funny, and that kind of relates with what goes on today.
Forced by a series of regressive tax reforms forced upon us by right-wingers.
You know, like, people will just argue their side with, like, no facts or evidence except, I'm right, I'm better than you, oh, I'm so much better than you, you're wrong. Sir, why do you think that you're, correct? I don't know, because I am. But either way, I really like that scene. That was a major highlight for the episode. Steve and Woody, they eventually get stuck together because Woody accidentally shoots himself, so they become conjoined twins and they learn to love it, but they don't actually like each other very much. It's just a odd scenario. So Woody shaves Steve down like a cancer patient, and I initially thought that Woody, like, switched Steve out with a different guy to have attached to his hip, but no, he just made Steve into a cancer patient, which was a little bit over the top. That was pretty wild. And we finally get introduced to Obama, and I didn't really like him. Like, I can't do a good Obama impression. Like, Michelle, I need you to wax me, Brazilian style. I can't even remotely do an Obama impression, but their version of Obama, he just sounds like, oh, Connie, oh, I missed you. I want to treat you like a petting zoo, girl. It's just a little bit weird. He walks in, he sees Connie and pretends that he doesn't know her, and they drag Connie into the back, and then Obama starts saying some heinous things about her and her booty, you know, saying that, oh girl, you smell like a petting zoo on a warm day, which I don't know many people that would entice and get arousal from, but go Obama. And then as I watch Obama fondle her cheeks into oblivion,
Yes.
I was really thinking, maybe this is an okay episode, you know? Maybe this is decent. So, Obama eventually just leaves after that, and then Woody, Steve eats a bunch of crab cakes, which makes Woody have an allergic reaction, and he puffs up like a big boy, and that's pretty much the entire episode. That was interesting nonetheless. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a solid 6 out of 10. I don't think it was the worst. There wasn't a lot of animals dying for no reason. There wasn't a lot of schlongs. It was just kind of all over the place, but that Obama stuff was pretty funny, and I really liked the entire conversation between the two hillbilly hicks about politics. That was fun. So, decent episode. Now taking a look at episode 14, this episode is just outright disgusting. If I had a nickel for every single time they drew an animal humping something within the show, I would have a lot of nickels. Like a lot of nickels, not even 2 nickels. I would have a fuck ton of nickels because it's every single episode. There's multiple times where it's an animal just dry humping something, or just, I guess it's not dry if you're an animal and you don't wear clothes, so it's just humping it up. But yeah, it's just a very common theme in the beginning of this episode for no reason. Well, I guess we eventually find out. Malloy is just aggressively humping Woody's foot while Woody is talking, and it's all I could stare at because why? Why are they doing this to this tiny little bear?
Today's the day I am becoming a member of the Hazelhurst.
Why are they making him just humpa humpa humpa? It's just not good, man. I don't like it. So Woody takes Denzel to a club to try to get into this awesome country club, and they end up choosing Denzel over him. So Denzel has new friends and eventually ditches Steve, and we get some of that good, that amazing animal death scenes where Steve just bites a lobster and kills it for no good reason. There's no joke. He's just angry, so he bites a lobster and breaks his teeth on it, and there's blood everywhere. It's great. At the same time, we learn that the Malloy's his glands, his anal gland, is a bit too full, to say the least. There's a bit too much going on in there, so we get to see a scene of Malloy just dragging his stanky bear ass all over the ground, just pooing literally everywhere, and it's outright disgusting, and god, does it just get so much worse. Eventually, Steve, his only outcome in this episode that could possibly work for him because he needs brand new friends is for him to become a lesbian. Yep, he says that he's a woman, and he's also a homosexual woman at that, to find some homosexual women friends who like him because he just fits that role, I guess. So we get some good scenes out of that, but the majority of it is just slop. All of this while Malloy's ass just keeps growing bigger and bigger and chunkier, and I was getting worried the bigger his ass got. I can't lie, Malloy's ass was getting huge as this episode progressed. Steve eventually challenges Denzel to a golf tournament. Whoever wins, Denzel has to leave his club, and Steve has to do something. I can't remember. I don't care. Eventually, Steve is willing to prove that he is more of a friend to Denzel than Denzel is to him because he flashes his schlong, but all of his friends, they're like, of course you're a woman, look at that thing, because, I don't know, it must look like the most jank clitoris that you've ever seen. I don't know why I said that like it's a dinosaur. Clitoris, no, but it must just be looking really jank down there because they're all like, of course you're a woman, look at that thing, that's a nice looking clit, yay, whoa. So good for them. Except the people at the country club, they do want to eat Denzel, and they tie him up and they're going to eat him. But that is when Ethel, she pushes on Malloy's ass through the door and it explodes and poop goes everywhere. A little bit of poop here, a little bit of poop there, a little bit of poop everywhere. Eventually everybody's covered in poop. And it just made me a little sick, you know. I could take a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of bad shows. I've seen a lot of horrible things. But just everybody covered in feces, it's not my cup of tea, to say the least. Not my cup of tea. That's pretty much the entire episode. That's all I really got to say. Denzel ends up getting away because everybody's brown. That means nobody can tell who he is, so they kill the wrong guy, and they don't care about the tradition of eating a black man anymore. Yep. Rating? Like 2 out of 10. Didn't like the poop. Didn't like Malloy's ass just janking all over the place. Not a very good episode. The best parts were Steve being a lesbian, but other than that, there was really nothing to cling on to there. Taking a look at episode 15 for this video, and I know probably some of you are wondering, these episodes aren't in line with where they are in the actual series. This is episode 15. This is the 15th episode I covered, but I have encountered so many episodes where there's literal just balls hanging out, testicles, like left and right, and I really don't want to get banned again, so I'm just playing it safe, which is why I'm doing it in this way, where I just say episode 15, because there are some episodes I have to skip, because they just genuinely have so many testicles or boobs everywhere that I can't do it. So episode 15, this episode is all about Woody's mom coming back into town and Connie kidnapping Pat, the man who runs Wheel of Fortune. And, you know, it always has a little bit of promise to it. Like, Woody's mom shows up. We get a little bit of flashbacks about how Woody used to jork his pork, and then his mom would get mad, so she put him in a closet with birds and bees where they would maul him, which was a funny concept. And then his mom shows up, and he immediately just bends over and asks for a spanking, which, you know, is a little bit sad and a little bit traumatic, but I was interested nonetheless. And then they just have to make it so unbelievably awful. You know, I guess if this is the trade-off to animals dying, no, it's not a good thing. They just don't know how to do anything interesting. There's no animal deaths in this episode, but Connie, she goes on Wheel of Fortune, and upon seeing Pat Sajak, the man who runs Wheel of Fortune, she starts pooping unbelievably violently, just excreting everywhere. Just poop going everywhere, all over the set, and it's just outright disgusting, just pure shock value. Just, oh wow, so funny. Connie's pooping everywhere, poopa poopa poopa. And then they follow it up with one of the best jokes I've ever seen in any animated show, where Woody's mom is all like, "Oh, you're a big boy, Woody, you need a feeding time?" And then I watch this 90-year-old woman show her breast, and Woody starts suckling on it, saying that it tastes spoiled. Just back-to-back gross-out moments to get a big old knee-slapping chuckle out of me. That's what that did. Yippee. So Denzel, because Woody's mom is a old hag, he wants to bone her, and he starts doing it, boning her a little here, a little there, and becoming Woody's brand new father, and they actually form a pretty decent bond, and it's kind of wholesome in a way. Also not that wholesome in a way. Connie eventually kidnaps Pat Sajak and has a Wheel of Fortune in her basement, which was kind of an interesting plot line, but also just kind of a weirder version of the movie Misery, but not as good, not with a like suspense or anything. It's just like really awful comedy, so I can't really say that much about it. They eventually do get Pat to escape when Connie agrees to go on Wheel of Fortune as a showgirl. That's pretty much that plot line. Nothing too interesting there. Eventually, Denzel and Woody's mom, they start fighting and they get a divorce. But thankfully, Denzel is there for Woody at the end of the episode and carries him in the wheelbarrow race, and they win, and that's great. That's pretty much the end of the episode. Again, I really don't know how much longer I could keep doing this. 15 episodes in, it's just not good, man. It just hurts my soul in every conceivable way. I've watched so many hours of this awful show, and it's not getting better. There's probably been like 2 episodes that I genuinely thought were decent, not even amazing, just decent out of all of these, and it's just getting so painful. If I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 3 out of 10. Nope, 2 out of 10 because of the breast suckling and pooping. Taking a look at episode 16, I'm really starting to like lose it a little bit. Like, the more I watch this, the angrier I get, which probably isn't good for a full series review in terms of enjoyment, but it's really starting to get to me, especially when the beginning of the episode is Malloy being tied up outside of a bar, and a dog finds him and has just a bulging red rocket and starts, you know, sexually assaulting Malloy. How many times do I have to watch an animal do this in this show? Like, you think when you're writing and animating this, eventually it stops being funny, so you stop animating and drawing animals having sex, but I guess they just never get sick of it. It's just a part of their silly little brand, I guess. I don't know. I hate it so unbelievably much. Ethel, in this episode, at the beginning of it, she's dating this guy who's the CEO of this, like, sky ball thing, and she gets broken up with, which leads to her sleeping with Steve, quote unquote sleeping with Steve, and she starts bleaching her vag, you know, bleaching it real good, not dyeing it, like genuinely pouring bleach on it because she's so disgusted with herself. And it turns out that she is pregnant with Steve's baby, and she immediately wants to get an abortion, but that's not what happens. Well, she does, but then Steve goes to the doctor and gets the baby transferred from Ethel into himself, so he is now pregnant, and we now get some thrilling scenes where he, like, has a pregnant photo shoot as a man, and his, like, bulging fat ass cheeks are there as well, and they're like being played like bongos. I don't even know what I could show anymore in this video. I really don't know what the limit's gonna be because it just keeps getting so much worse. There is one joke in the episode that was fine, I guess, where they're saying, this is what your baby may potentially look like, and it's just a picture of fucking Jonah Hill. So, yeah, that's the best part of your episode. You really don't have a lot to cling on to there, do ya? So Steve, or Ethel, is trying to convince Steve to not have this babies, and then they do like a trial run with a grown man dressed up as a toddler. Yes, one of my favorite tropes in any kind of show. Let's have an adult man dress up like a little baby, give a little goo goo gaga, and they just top it all off like a little cherry on top of some ice cream with the grown man pissing all over Steve into his mouth a little bit. And that's like the third time that happens. It's the first time it's happened in Brickleberry. But in Paradise PD, that happened a lot with a old senile man peeing in a police chief's mouth, and I'm pretty sure it happened in Farzar too. I just can't remember. It's kind of like going blank a little bit there. But yeah, so that's great. I love that happened. That was thrilling. And eventually we learned that it's not actually Steve's baby because Steve didn't actually have sex with Ethel. It was that guy coming into his house late at night, the guy that was dating Ethel at the beginning of the episode, and having sex with her, and it's actually that baby. So we get to the incredible scene at the hospital in which Steve is going to give birth. They cut him open, and it turns out that it's just a tumor. Yay. Yay, I wonder what he's gonna do with the tumor. He starts kissing it and loving on it, and you could watch like the blood or the baby juices, the male uterus juice. I don't know. I don't know anything at this point. He kisses it and gets it all over his mouth, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. There was an entire plot line with Woody being psychiatrically committed because Malloy was pretending to not be a talking bear, and then they just resolve it by him being a talking bear, and that's pretty much it. Not really worth talking about. I'm losing my sanity a little bit. I feel like I'm getting restless and also tired at the same time. It's a very odd feeling. Rating this episode. Solid 3, I guess. Taking a look at episode 17 of this video. This episode is all about Steve and Steve's mother, as well as a much more attractive woman becoming a park ranger. Now Steve, he's dealing with his own problems because he gets his Ranger of the Month award, and then he walks into Woody's office, and Woody is just plowing his own mother. Not Woody's mom, Steve's mom. So Steve has the horrible realization that his entire life is a lie and he's never earned anything on his own because his mom was just being a dirty little whore going around and just banging every single person to give Steve the best possible life, and Steve is obviously feeling a little bit betrayed by this. We get to see some examples of this in his past, like the driver's test one. I don't know how Steve couldn't figure this out in the first place. Like, are you sure I need to stop at the stop sign? Oh yeah, just go past the stop sign.
Okay.
As he's getting railed in the back while Steve is taking his driver's test. Very odd. And then the pizza man comes to deliver Steve a good old pie, a fresh pie, and his mom starts blowing him, but it's just the tip. Don't gotta worry about that. So Steve goes on this journey to try to make everything his own and try to become important again. At the same time, they're looking for a new park ranger, and Amber shows up, and she's got some big bazongas, a big fat ass, which is slightly better than Ethel's, so Ethel is now viewed as less of a person, and I don't know, they didn't really do a whole lot of interesting stuff with this other than needless animal death again. I don't get it. There's a scene where Amber feeds a little bird Zoloft, a, like, anti-depression pill or some shit, like multiple times, and then throws the bird and the bird dies. And then there's another scene where she is grabbing and holding onto a fox and is like, look at this little forest kitten, ow, and throws it up into a ceiling fan and it gets chopped in half.
It's creatures! Yay! Now there's 2 kitty dogs!
And again, it's genuinely just stuff that I feel like only sociopaths would laugh at. It's just so weird. It's not set up well. It's just, look at this animal dying. Wasn't that funny? I don't know how many times I have to reiterate that in this video. It just feels It feels worthless at this time, so Amber, she starts saying the N-word willy-nilly, but because she's so goddamn fine, nobody cares, and so Ethel is going to go to her house to kill her, but she realizes, oh my god, you're hot! So they start passionately making out and have the dirty nasty together, and good for them, I guess, and then Amber wants to learn how to actually be a member of society, but there's a fire that has started, and she goes and she gets burnt to a crisp, charred, and nobody likes her anymore. So that's pretty much the episode. There was another plot with Denzel going up to this watchtower that makes you go insane, and he was imagining like a bunch of animals that were also foods, like a spaghetti owl, and they end up pushing him out of the tower, and that's where they put Amber when her flesh is all charred off at the end of the episode. Ultimately, just pointless. Wasting my time out here. Wasting my time. I don't know. Too many episodes of Brickleberry. Too many. Losing my mind. This episode was okay. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Again, it's just the things that they decide to focus on for the comedy are usually not that funny, but I would give this one a 4 out of 10. Taking a look at episode 18 for this video, there is something you need to know about the little bit of the Cowlos lore. Cowlos did not begin on YouTube. Cowlos originated on TikTok, and there I was a little bit of a vigilante, to say the least. My entire brand on there, I initially had like 120,000 followers before they banned me. My entire brand on there is I would make fun of people who would go after women in very weird ways. Like if somebody saw a very hot woman on the internet and was like, no, I want to sniff your toes, I would eviscerate them. I would make fun of them. I was just, you know, I really liked making fun of dudes who were so unbelievably down bad. That was my brand. So seeing this episode and the concept of this episode, it fucking disturbs me a little bit. How is this supposed to make Woody a likable character, an interesting character, or a fun character to watch? It's just not funny. Woody, he is doing this big old happy camper thing where he's gonna have a bunch of campers come to Brickleberry for some events and some fun. There is a woman there that he thinks is around his age, or is just a young woman that is ready to tap. Turns out she is only 17 years old. And just because she's more developed, you should not want to be with a 17-year-old woman.
Get you back to your cabin.
Thanks for the special evening, sweetie.
But the entire episode's premise revolves around Woody patiently waiting to get all up inside of that and doing everything possible to make sure that that happens. And it's just flat out weird, man. It reminds me, back when I was doing my TikToks when I was like 16 years old, of seeing people who literally had a countdown. They had a countdown. It was like 120 days until Charlie D'Amelio turns 18, bros. Can't wait. Like, that's so fucking weird, dude. That's actually so weird. And this is the type of stuff it reminds me of. I don't know. I already know that the creators of the show, they like incest. They like watching animals humping. They like animals dying. And this is just another level of weird. Even if she is about to turn 18, I think even the idea of, ooh, I can just wait for you to grow up, is still a little bit weird, man. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. So all the kids that show up, they actually do some kind of interesting things with Steve's plotline, where he's taking care of a bunch of rejects who are all, you know, a little bit freaky. Like, there's an albino kid, a kid in a wheelchair, all that stuff, and he's trying to just be super protective, but then he wants them to have fun, and then they eventually do this big camp game, and there's this one scene that was kind of weird, where the albino kid, he goes out in the sunlight without sunscreen, and they start cooking. He like starts cooking and turning, you know, his normal shade of color, and then all the kids start eating him, which was just weird and a very random joke that fell out of place, because I don't understand. I've never looked at somebody with a sunburn and went, I need a nibble, you know? It's just a little bit odd, but either way, that entire side of the plot was fine. All the kids eventually like win this big reward and turn into zombies at the end. Yep, turn into zombies at the end. Yeah, very, very odd stuff. But eventually, Woody does get to be with the girl. There's literally a countdown to when she turns 18, and he jumps all up in that and does the nasty with her. And then the next day, he is talking to this mother that he apparently had sex with 18 years ago. And it turns out that the girl that he slept with was his own daughter that he didn't know about. And isn't that just making it even more weird? I thought there was going to be some kind of moment that was going to tear Woody down for what he did, but that was just not the moment I wanted. That honestly made it even worse. I mean, obviously Woody's like, oh my god, I just did that with my daughter, but I would have much rather like a big bulking man find him and just grab both his nipples and just pull them off for even trying to wait for a girl to turn 18 when Woody is clearly pushing 40. I don't know, I just think it's inherently weird, and the fact that they made it a incest joke as the big, oh wow, Woody, why'd you do that didn't make it better for me at all. Did not like that. So if I was to rate it 1 to 10, I would give this episode a 1 out of 10. Did not like it. Actually 2 out of 10 for the steep plot line, but god. Taking a look at episode 19 for this video, I just honestly don't know what to do with myself. There's so many episodes that I have to leave out because they just randomly decide to do crazy things with a ball sack. I can't show you in this episode, but in this episode, Woody, he's really convinced that there's no such thing as global warming, so he's creating a lot of stuff with AC, and at one point he's talking to Ethel because Ethel's super pissed about all this, and he's like, well, you know, because it's so hot, my balls, they wrinkle out and spread into what looks like a bat symbol, and it just shows his testicles looking like a bat symbol. How am I supposed to get away with that? There's so many episodes where I'm just so terrified of getting banned because they just have such a incestual need to show animals getting dirty with each other in horrible ways. Ball sex. It's just so weird, man. It's all such nonsense. So Ethel and Woody are going at it over global warming. Ethel and Connie eventually go to live like the Amish, and that's pretty much all they do the entire episode until Ethel learns that she can't behave like that. They almost get burned at the stake, but the Amish people, they see Flappy Bird, so they're like, Flappy Bird, yay! No more Amish! And that's pretty much it for their entire nonsense. Ultimately pointless, ultimately a waste of time. Malloy is scared of cows, and there's a lot of farting cows in this episode. There's a great, wonderful scene where a cow poops on him, just delivers a big old stinky cow shit on him, and that's thrilling because that's what everybody wants to see, cow poop being pooped on people. Yay, yay, yay! I'm so happy to be covering this show. Yay! The coolest part of the episode is that Steve, he almost dies, and then he gains this power to see into the future, only a few seconds, to where he saves Woody, and then they go to the casino, and they're using all his powers to win a bunch of money. But eventually, Woody starts just creating the ultimate global warming force because he wants to prove to Ethel that it doesn't exist, so he's just making like massive amounts of carbon monoxide. Excuse me. And then Steve, he can't handle this, so he like tries to fight with Woody, but Woody ultimately outsmarts him, and then a bunch of cows come from outer space and they take over the world and kill everybody, and Steve wakes up in the coma in this cow world, and that's all we get to see of Brickleberry. That's the final Brickleberry. That was the last episode of Brickleberry. So I don't know if they were leading into season 4 with cow nonsense, but either way, I'm so glad to be done. I don't even give a shit if my review of this episode sucked. I'm done. There were so many episodes that I had to leave out, but I genuinely sat here for 13 hours watching every single episode, and then I would review it and be like, okay, that's a bit too many ball sacks, it's too risky for the channel, I can't do that. This was so many nonsensical, stupid bullshit episodes. If I was to rate this one 1 to 10, I would rate it 3. Yay. Well, if you made it this far in the video, I'm genuinely surprised because the last 10 episodes I did, I was just suffering the entire time. It's just a really big guy complaining in a maid outfit. So if that tickled your fancy, you're probably here. You made it all the way to the end. If that didn't, I don't know. I knew when they gave me the money to make this video that the majority of it would just be me complaining, giving a joke here, a joke there, because I already knew what this show was going to be. This show is nothing but animals dying with no follow-up jokes. It's just, the joke is literally that they die. This show is animals humping each other. I probably watched over 100 different times a animal just start aggressively thrusting on another animal. I watched so much shock humor, so many people get pooped on, so many people get thrown up on. This was a horrible experience, and I'm gonna get hundreds of Brickleberry fans that are just, you know, so insistent that the show is amazing, the show is fantastic, but I will never understand it. You have to be a special kind of person, and I envy you. If I could laugh at this, I so totally would, and I tried. There were a couple of episodes that I liked, but the majority of it is just the most painful slop I've ever had to sit through. Genuinely. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. I really hope you enjoyed. If you genuinely made it this far into the video, put an eggplant emoji, you know, because this is a really long one and it's just gonna get longer after editing when I do all the clips and stuff. So yeah, this is a lot of suffering for you. Really hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.